What's up, y'all? This is indeed the E-Man, chilling like a villain, singing like Bob Dylan, keeping on low with some double stuff Oreos. Thank you so much for listening to the special delivery show and watching the special delivery show. This episode right here, which is about Antman 3 or Antman and the Wasp, Quantumania, has full spoilers. I just wanted to let you know because I wasn't able to put that in the video because I just got caught up in the conversation. So I just wanted to warn everybody who hasn't seen the movie yet, which is, I think, definitely worth seeing in the movie theater. This episode right here, featuring myself, Alex, Kang, and Brookston, has full spoilers. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the show, and that's it. Peace. What's up, everybody? This is indeed the E-Man, chilling like a villain, singing like Bob Dylan, keeping on low with some double stuff Oreos. Talking about the number one movie in America at the moment, which is called Antman and the Wasp, Quantumania. But you know I'm not going to be doing it alone. Oh no, I have three very intelligent, very cool chaps, and I'm going to introduce them to you real fast. He was in episode 24 and 27 of my podcast, which were the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle episodes. He's going to be in the upcoming episode about Puss in Boots. He's the founder of Tea Time Productions, and he is a dad. Welcome, Cowabunga Mike, to the show. What's up, Cowabunga Mike?
Hey, great to be back.
Yeah, man. Good to see you, man. Glad you're here. He was in episode 26 of my podcast, which was the Wakanda Forever Roundtable episode. He is a pizza connoisseur. He's a rad dad. I just want to welcome the Beard God, Brookston, to the show. What's up, Brookston?
How you doing, man? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. Good to see you, brother. And last but not least, he is also a dad. He's an artist, an overall cool guy. I want to welcome back Supa Dynamite. He was on episode number 26 as well. Supa Dynamite, what's up?
What's good, big bro? How you doing?
I'm alive like Johnny Five, man. I'm alive like Johnny Five, man. Antman 3, or Antman and the Wasp, Quantumania, which is directed by Peyton Reed, starring Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer, Jonathan Majors, Evangeline Lilly, and Bill Murray, and Kathleen Newton. Yes, I said that right. And I ended up watching it on Thursday. Actually, I watched it on Thursday with Shane. And I don't know. I just have it's getting a lot of mixed reviews. And I mean, I walked out of the film satisfied. You know, I wasn't like exuberant about it. Me and Shane both agreed. Much better than Love and Thunder. I mean, like I could watch that again. I'm not going to rewatch Love and Thunder. But it had some pros and cons for me. Pros for me was Jonathan Majors was amazing. He was great as Kang the Conqueror. The story arc with Janet was dope. And some of the effects were good. They weren't great, but they were good. Start off with the Beard God, Brookston.
Okay. What did I think of it overall? Overall, I think that the movie served its purpose, which was to introduce the next big bad of the next phase. I wasn't too overwhelmed with the movie. I feel like it did what it was supposed to do, which was basically introduce, and they strung this far back because I did watch some movies previous, and in Antman and the Wasp, like you see when they go down to the quantum realm, like you can see in the distance, there's a shot of the city Chronopolis where Kang resides. And the whole concept of time travel that they used in Infinity War and Endgame, came from the quantum realm. So they've been setting this up for a while now. And Kang is definitely someone who is a threat. To me, the end credits were better than the whole movie. The end credits were like worth staying for because as a comic fan, it's like, even if you're not that familiar with Kang, you get to see just how much of a threat he is, like by the end of the movie. Variants, like they show like 3 different versions of him. Like at the end, it was really 4 actually. They showed Victor Timely, like they showed Immortus, which was the kind of older looking one. They showed Rama Tut. He appeared like in the Fantastic Four comic. He was the adversary of the Fantastic Four. The Scarlet Centurion, which was the kind of futuristic looking one. Those are all versions of Kang at some point in his life, with Immortus being like the oldest. And so it was so exciting for me seeing those cutscenes because there's so much that they could do. There's so much source material to take from. Now, mind you, some of the source material that was written in like the 70s or whatever, they had some kind of weird, convoluted, stories that didn't necessarily age well. But with time travel, as they're telling it, currently, it stands to be very interesting, especially with them really going full on multiverse. So that just really had me kind of excited for the rest of the franchise. And I don't think I'm going to be looking at this movie again, to be quite honest. Like, Jonathan Majors is a phenomenal actor. I'll probably fast forward to his scenes, to be quite honest. Because he really stole the show. He stole the show in every scene he was in. He had that gravitas. You made him, he was so convincing, of the role. And to me, that made the movie worth watching. When the premise first came out that Kang was going to be an adversary of Antman, I'm like, okay, what is the Antman family going to do against Kang? Honestly. But they did a good job, telling the story as best they could. I couldn't write another story, so I can't complain about it too much because, like I said, I feel like the whole point of this movie was basically to introduce this main big bad, and I feel like they did that well. About Kang is he has a knowledge of past, present, and future, and that's what really makes him a threat. He knows your future events. He's familiar with 40th century technology. He can pretty much use whatever is at hand, to his disposal. And his armor, that just makes him able to kind of keep up with the top echelon of heroes. I mean, he's killed numerous versions of Avengers, just throughout the multiverse. And his knowledge is really what makes him dangerous. He's not a benevolent individual. He's a very malevolent individual with knowledge of past, present, and future. So that's one of the main things that really make him a threat because of his knowledge.
I thought it was interesting that even with all of his know-how, he still couldn't reproduce the Pym particle. You know what I mean? Only one person could do that. It seemed like that's Hank Pym. Is that right?
Yeah, that's how they made it seem in the movie. In this particular, in the comic, he wasn't so. They kind of made Pym particles kind of the avenue of time travel in the MCU, which is why, of course, Kang was interested in it because that was his way out, etc. But in the comic, he really wasn't. He had enough technology and enough know-how to be able to kind of traverse time and space without Pym particles. But since this was made kind of a plot point, then now that you bring it up, it is kind of interesting that he would need. But it kind of makes sense because in the quantum realm, he might not have had what he needed to create the Pym particles, and so luring Scott down, who had a perfectly good suit, who had Pym particles that could do exactly what he needed to do, it kind of makes sense.
Right. Well, I just want to add there, considering he got exiled to the quantum realm in the first place, someone obviously had the technology in his, where, the elusive they he kept talking about, they obviously had the technology to shrink him down to the quantum realm in the first place. So
yeah, I'm really wondering. I was hoping with the post credit scene they would reveal who that person was that exiled him to the quantum realm. We talked about this, but I was thinking, oh crap, Are they going to reveal Reed Richards? Or, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I wasn't sure if they're going to do that, but they did. So that's a huge question mark. What did you think of the film, Shane? What did you think?
Oh no, I liked it. I agree with Brookston a good bit. It's Kang out there Kanging, and that's what I came for. I wanted to see Kang and the introduction of that character, and afterwards, here's how I approached the film. I knew one of two things was going to happen. Either he's getting out, which was to me was going to be equivalent to the snap in the first Infinity, and the Infinity War was, oh no, it's going to end on a really, but it didn't. But it did end with eerie elusiveness of, oh wow, what have we really done? We thought we won, but even Antman had that moment of discertainty where he was kind of retracing, what Kang the Conqueror had said in the quantum realm about, he'd seen the future, and something much worse than him was, which He Who Remains spoke of that as well. So,
right.
It's interesting to see how they're setting this up and how this is all going to come full circle. Because I think it will. I think there are going to be probably events that we've already come to in this last phase or phase 4 and probably into phase 5 that we'll probably come back to from a different perspective just because of how they're doing the time thing. Now, I know in Moon Knight, they made suggestions of Ramatut. So you knew that Kang was Ramatut just because they laid some footprints down. And I'm curious where this is going to lead to with Loki season 2, just because I haven't gone back and watched that last episode. I know I'm talking a lot about the post-credit, and I'll get to the movie itself too. But at the end of the finale of Loki season 1, did they not have statues in the TVA that changed to 3 people? And wasn't those 3 people Ramatut, Immortus, and probably the Scarlet Centurion? So doesn't it seem to think that those 3 probably take over the TVA?
I thought this
kind of alludes to that, like toward the end.
Okay.
It's amazing how these things are syncing up. Like, I can't figure out what event made the chain effect for Loki season 1 at the end. Was it the death of He Who Remains, or was it the events of Quantumania? Because, the 3 at the end of Quantumania, they made out like the exiled one was what was holding them back. But from Loki season 1, it seems like He Who Remains was the levy holding them back by creating the sacred timeline to keep the rest of them at bay. So, I don't know, because I kept thinking, we talked about this, they said the exiled one is dead, but were they talking about Kang in the quantum realm, or were they talking about He Who Remains? Right. Or were they actually talking about when Sylvia killed that version of him? We just think he was talking about, Scott, defeating Kang in the quantum realm. I mean, I don't know. It's just, they did call him the exiled one, though, so I don't know. That's where I'm kind of confused. But as far as the rest of the film, I'll jump back to that. There were certain things I liked and I didn't like. One of the things I noticed a lot was it always seemed like there was at least 3 or 4 moments where either Michelle Pfeiffer or I think even Cass, they've got 2 guards holding them, side by side, and they kept on doing these camera motions where they're showing you how they're thinking about going for the gun, or they're thinking about, and they do that at least 3 or 4 times through the whole film. I'm like, wow, they keep repeating this. How's Michelle Pfeiffer going to take out these 2 guards holding her again? And the same thing with Cassie. They did that a lot, and I'm like, wow, it's a repeated thing. And then also, and maybe this has a lot to do with Michelle Pfeiffer's character. Did it seem like they de-aged her the whole movie? She looked a lot. I mean, I know she's older and she haven't looked older, but she didn't look as old as she actually does. So it made me wonder: are they insinuating that she didn't age as much because she was stuck for 30 years down in the quantum realm? Because time does work differently, but there were just some moments where her face looked de-aged a lot.
now that you say that, I think they did do that. And you know, what's really was I was thinking the other day, it was like, it's like, okay, they need to really, they need to make clear when the snap happened, right? Okay. When the snap happened, 50% of the population, you know, disappeared, right? They need to explain where they went, right? You know what I'm saying? They haven't yet established that. I can assume they went to, I don't know if they went to a part of the quantum realm, that I don't know if they're in, if they're in another dimension or what. They never made that clear.
You know,
they need to make that clear.
I read something about they all went into the Soul Stone.
Okay.
That was always my thought.
Yeah, that they all went to the Soul Stone.
Well, if
I don't know exactly where they went. I mean, it makes sense that they would go into the Soul Stone, but if you remember on Hawkeye, when Yelena, when she got snapped out, she snapped back like right. I mean, exactly in the spot where she got snapped out.
Yeah.
Now, where she was in the meantime, I don't know, but yeah, apparently everyone who was snapped out, they were brought back to their original point.
What year is it in the MCU right now on their timeline? Is it 2024, 2025, or have we caught up? Because I feel like
thought it was 2024. It was now, like right now, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's definitely not 2023. I think it's like 24, 25.
Okay. Yeah, me too. Well, Supa Dynamite, what are your thoughts on the movie?
I actually listened to the fellas talk. It gave me a better appreciation for it. But like, as somebody that don't know much about them from the comics, but from the MCU, it's like, I thought it was really, really not really good, not bad. I mean, I didn't hate it, but I mean, it's Paul Rudd. I mean, you gotta love it, you know what I mean? On some level, you know what I mean? But it was decent. I was kind of like, I think I was disappointed in Kang because not knowing nothing about him from the comics, but I kind of wish they didn't talk about him before the movie. Because like 2 years ago, you knew Kang was coming, you know what I'm saying? So it was like, oh, Kang gonna be an Antman, you know what I mean? And then when he shows up, he's just like the evil Iron Man. And then they beat him in one movie. And it's like, all right, so I mean, what's coming? Now I am hearing the fellas talk. I am excited about what's to come. But like, as far as seeing him and Ant-Man, it's like they built him up for a long time. You know, even Michelle Pfeiffer's character, she wouldn't even say his name. So he was like Voldemort for half the movie. You know what I'm saying? What's in the quantum realm that you're so scared of? I don't want to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? So you never said. Why
are you so scared?
Why are you so scared? You know what I mean? He's all he who must not be named. And then he show up and they beat him with a bunch of ants. You know, granted, it was kind of cool how the ants, they had their civilization going for like 1 million years, and you know what I'm saying? And but ultimately all they did, they came on, they jumped on top of them, the end. You know what I'm saying? Like they just dogpiled on him, and then my man MODOK was hilarious. MODOK shows up, oh, I'm not a ding dong, and then everything blows up, and then it's like, okay, let's go. You know what I mean? So it was good. I liked it, but I don't know, man. I just feel a certain kind of way about it.
You know, that was my takeaway the next day. I went to work the next day and was just like, guys, remember, it's never too late not to be a dick.
Yeah. I think, you know,
so that is something to write down.
Honestly, I think that I think they did just about as good as they could do with MODOK. Mm-hmm. Because MODOK is kind of a joke character. I mean, he is dangerous, but right. I mean, it's like, I didn't mind that he was in the movie. Like, I really didn't. Like, he had his place. You know, they used a different person to incorporate, you know, to turn into MODOK, but it still worked. And it wasn't like, I don't know, I can't really see him being anywhere else but this type of movie. You know what I'm saying?
It would have to be this type of movie. You're right.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I don't see him being taken very seriously. And it was a good use of a character that wasn't like completely disappointing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm curious about one thing though. I mean, because his thing, this Kang was defeated, but we know that there's more to come, and there's going to be countless. But how many Avengers do we have remaining right now? I mean, Thor's still an Avenger, right? Him and Love, right? Aren't they kind of? But I mean, we got no Cap, we got no Iron Man. They're setting up, I guess, West Coast Avengers, and I know we got the Thunderbolts and stuff. So here's my thing: other than old Seinfeld lady, what's her name? I didn't call her Lady Hydra. I don't know who she is, but other than old Lady Hydra putting together some team, it's just like exactly what are we doing? Like she's out of her league. There's no, I mean, like I feel like whatever Nick Fury's doing might play into, although that's a whole new thing altogether with the Skrulls. But it's just, I'm curious when it comes to Kang Dynasty, like what Avenger, because it's called Avengers, Kang Dynasty, like what Avengers are we relying on at this point? I mean, Shuri too. We got Shuri. So, I mean.
The thing about this is that with the inclusion of the multiverse, there's a possibility that we might see old actors as new variants of themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
So the multiverse kind of blows everything wide open as far as who could participate and who could band together to stop this big bad, because Kang isn't just, one universe, he's a multiversal threat. So quite naturally, there are going to be people and heroes from, different times, different eras, and different timelines that are going to band together to come against him.
Yeah.
I was really missing, and one of the things I didn't like about the movie was, where's Michael Pena? He made the other two movies great as Luis and his story. I would have loved to have seen him like at the book reading, him like doing like some kind of up to date, thing or whatever. The thing that he does with all of the Antman movies is great. T.I. wasn't in the movie either, and neither was David Dalshamain. The three actors in the original movies, they weren't in this film, which is really weird.
I totally agree. I believe that they would have given the movie I think they would have added more to it. Like they're not necessarily having to go to the quantum realm, but it would be interesting if they did. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Interacting with all the different alien beings and all that good stuff.
That would have been good to see.
Like another layer of humor and entertainment to the movie.
Luis should have been voicing the audiobook when they were driving in the car.
That would have been cool.
Great.
He should have been that. That was a waste.
So okay, so I heard this and I had to like look it up. So David Dast, that guy. Like honestly, here's how I remember him. That's the guy from the second one.
That was hilarious.
I don't know why they don't call her Baba Yaga, because I think that it's much better than what Phantom or whatever her name is.
The Ghost.
The Ghost, yeah. Okay, so he was in Quantumania, but he played that guy with the sun and the light beam thing. That
was him.
Yeah, that was him.
Nice.
So
so he was in there.
Yeah, that was my only other complaint, though. It's like those characters, they felt like they should have been a little bit more. They were forgettable for me, I guess, is what I'm saying. I didn't latch on to them as much as like I would say characters from Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff. Like there were characters that didn't have much screen time, but I still enjoyed. I didn't really remember much. Hell, the guy with the light guy, the David guy, I hardly heard his lines. Like I know he was talking at certain points, but I couldn't even tell it was him. And a lot of it was because he has no mouth. But I mean, I just a lot of times he was talking while doing action stuff. So I was like, he's saying stuff. But I mean, none of it I remember. Now his death was kind of unfortunate,
Yeah, like the creature with there's some. I have holes.
Oh yeah. See, honestly, I thought that was the dude, the talkative one. What's his name? From the one you missed.
Luis or Michael Pena?
Yeah. I thought that was him, and like they should have been.
Yeah.
Was T.I. even in the second one though?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was in the second.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of these reviewers and some of these platforms are saying the MCU has lost its magic. I want to believe that this is Quantumania is just a puzzle piece, a small puzzle piece of a bigger picture. I want to believe like after it's all said and done at the end of phase 5, all of this other stuff is going to make sense. For example, when I first watched Age of Ultron, Alex, you know, I hated that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I couldn't stand it. You know what I'm saying? And not everything in the first 3 phases in the MCU have been perfect. I'm going to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? Really didn't care for Captain Marvel either. But after watching Endgame for the 9th time, going back and watch, going back and watching those films, I was like, oh, well, Age of Ultron, I'm like, oh, just
you appreciate it more.
Yeah, you can see the foreshadowing of Endgame. You know what I'm saying? When you watch Age of Ultron, I don't think the MCU has lost its magic. I think that we just have to, wait it out and see what happens. What do you guys think?
Honestly, I think that, and I said this in the last podcast, with all the shows and stuff that they did in Phase 4, which some of them I really enjoyed, particularly Hawkeye and Falcon and Winter Soldier. They're laying groundwork, and I'm willing to see where it goes. I'm not going to judge it outright. I mean, this is the first film of Phase 5. I didn't really expect it to be spectacular. Like I said, like even when the concept came that Kang was going to be the main villain of like Antman, I'm like, what are they going to do against him? Like, because even though it seems like, he was defeated, I am not counting him out. I am not counting that version of Kang out at all. He could very well pop up somewhere else. He could very well end up being Victor Timely. We don't know. And that's, like I said, that's why I say those end credits are better than the whole movie, because they just kind of blow everything wide open as far as what can happen.
The possibilities.
It just allows for so much storytelling, and they already have so much source material to draw from. All they have to do is just tell a good story, and they have what they need. And I'm willing to see where it goes.
What do you think, Cowabunga Mike, as far as some of these platforms saying like, the MCU has lost its magic, it's not the same of what it used to be, things like that?
I think a lot of this is probably coming from a place where there's a big gap for some people. A lot of the people who aren't watching the shows, and even the ones that are watching the shows, I guess it's just not, hitting the same way the movies did. I don't necessarily like all of it. Like I thought Moon Knight was boring, to be honest with you. Another thing is, there are 3 things that I think have a lot to do with what's going on, but I think people aren't seeing the bigger picture, because I think that's what everybody's complaining about is it's because they can't see what's going on.
That is true, because I think we would be remiss, and I think that kind of ties into people's dissatisfaction with this particular phase, because this phase is a little bit more cerebral than the last phase. There's a whole lot more theory crafting. There's a whole lot more subtle hints. There's a whole lot more going on behind the scenes that if you just go to the movies just to watch stuff blow up and people fight, then you're going to be a little disappointed, because there's a lot more to it than that. And I think that factors into why, people's dissatisfaction, particularly with the last phase, because there was a lot of groundwork being laid down that is more than likely going to show up, because all this stuff is going to be connected somehow. We don't know exactly how, but there's been a lot of stuff like laid down already that's more than likely going to show up in later on in the phase.
You're right, man. Like when you said the key word you said was groundwork, because literally is a scorched earth situation. Game, they literally lost everything. The compound was blasted by Thanos, right? And then they lost their 2 anchors. They lost Captain America and they lost Tony Stark. So they had to really start over from scratch. So that's why and so we're left with a bunch of heroes that aren't necessarily, even the Avengers, they don't even exist anymore. So it's just like you're dealing with individual characters and their individual stories, and people aren't used to that. Doctor Strange has his own agenda. Hulk has his own agenda, and so on and so forth. Alex, what did you think of this whole thing about the MCU losing its magic?
I think the MCU lost some magic, but the MCU has a crap load of magic. So there's still some magic there because I mean, when I watched the first Avengers movie, I geeked out for the entire 2 hours. That's a lot of magic, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think so. And I said it before. I think that Phase 4 suffered because Chadwick Boseman passed away. I think Black Panther was going to be the Tony Stark of the MCU going forward because, like, as far as the Avengers is concerned, I think I said this before. As far as the Avengers is concerned, at first they were under Shield. Shield failed, then they were kind of under Iron Man. Iron Man was financing everything. Iron Man was gone. Who's going to finance the Avengers? Everybody else is just like, working class type people is just fighting crime. You know what I mean? And now, and they just did the best they could with what they had dealing with Phase 4. And now going into Phase 5, Phase 5 is just starting. Like Brookston said, this is the first movie. The first movie of the phase usually starts setting things up. We had stuff set up, with the TV shows, Loki dealing with Kang, Doctor Strange and the incursions and all of this multiverse stuff, Spider-Man. So now we're getting into that multiverse stuff and we're starting this phase focused on multiverse stuff with Kang and all of the different Kangs that's out there and all of these timelines that are out there. So the MCU, I say they lost some magic, but there's still a lot of magic there. A lot of things that we're excited about is speculation. You know what I mean? There's no guarantee that it's going to happen. We're hopeful, you know what I mean? But where we are right now, it's still magical. It's still a magical place, you know what I mean? But we're just hoping that they do something with this timeline or this Easter egg leads to something, you know what I mean? Which I think it will. But we really won't know until it happens. And I'm still excited about what's going to happen. You know what I mean? So, it's around the way, beating around the bush to say, yeah, the MCU still has magic. You know what I mean? Yeah, they lost magic, but they still have magic.
Yeah.
I believe that, and I think Alex touched on something very important, the fact that we lost such key players. I mean, we basically lost the big three of the Avengers, like right. Thor's off, doing stuff with Love and other galaxy, whatever. They're just kind of doing their own thing. Captain America's old now, Iron Man's dead. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, and it's one of the reasons that made, that particular, I think it was Phase 3 or whatever, with the Infinity War phase. One of the things that made that so good was because we had that core group that was already established.
Right.
And, they were going on these adventures together. They were a formidable force. They had something to fight against. And now it's like, Dad, we lost some of our best leaders. And it's like, and I mean, from a writer's standpoint, writing these plot points and coming up with something with like Captain America being dead, like being not dead, but you know what I'm saying? Like he's been taken out of play. And even though, Sam is taking up the shield, it's like, okay, we have a different crew now. We have to form a different team to be able to handle these big bads, And right. it takes some good writing to kind of piece together this new team that would be an Avengers level team that would be able to combat these, these high level threats. And so it's kind of something that keeps, even, comic book fans on their toes because it's not coming right out of the comic. It's like, okay, this is different. This is new.
It's different. And we're spoiled now.
Next. Yeah, exactly. So that does add a degree of magic and suspense to, and that's why I say I'm willing to see what happens.
Bonus question, just out of curiosity, what do you guys think of the new Flash trailer? I got to know what Brookston, what do you think about that Flash trailer, man?
Okay. Man, I just there are so many words. There's so many different things I could say. The thing that I'm probably looking forward to the most from the Flash trailer or from the Flash movie, I want to see how he reestablishes, like what's going to be the new status quo after Flashpoint. Like what's going to be the DC cinematic universe going forth. I'm already familiar enough with this story. It looks like they're following, key elements of Flashpoint like pretty well. the two berries, that's new. Kara instead of Clark, I'm very interested in seeing how she's going to be represented, because it seems like they took the Superman right out of that Flashpoint and just replaced it with Kara. Right. And I'm very interested in, I'm looking forward to her the most.
Does it seem like she's in Russia?
It seems like it.
Yeah, because I know there's a version of Superman. What if he didn't land in America? What if he landed in another
Red Sun?
Red Sun version. Yeah. This kind of follows the Flashpoint, where basically he crash landed and they just basically threw him away and are studying him. He's under red light. He's
That's
like
right.
And malnourished and all this good crap. And I don't know if it's Batman. Yeah, I think it's Batman who, like, you know, that world's Batman knew about him and took Flash and like, hey,
this is Thomas Wayne, though, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a Thomas Wayne.
It was Thomas Wayne. That's the only difference too, is they're doing a different Batman as opposed to making it a version where Bruce died and Thomas became like an alcoholic, gun-toting Dark Knight.
Remember, they already laid down the foundation in the movies with Jeffrey Dean Morgan playing his father. So there was a huge amount of fans that wanted to see Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Thomas Wayne Batman.
Right.
And just the fact that, I mean, I put no hate on Michael Keaton Batman. I no hate at all. I would have rather seen Jeffrey Dean's version. That's who I was gearing up for. I'm kind of taking that movie with a grain of salt. I just want to see where it goes. I'm not gonna down it too soon. I'm not gonna, draw too many conclusions ahead of time. I just want to see how they execute it.
You notice they also recasted his father. It's not Billy Crudup anymore. It's some other guy. I recognize the actor, but it's not Billy Crudup.
Right.
That's who he was talking to, and when he was talking to him in jail. So now, something else that I noticed from that as well is, they are going off Flashpoint Paradox, but it looks like short-haired Barry has no Speed Force, which does go into play because he does lose his Speed Force power. But it looks like that, because if you think about it, when he's on that roof and he's being pinned down by the soldier, he's like, Batman, what do we do? Why is Flash being pinned down? And why can't, I don't think he has any powers, or at least that version of him. The long hair one might, but I don't know.
It makes sense that they would kind of throw the other Barry into that, because, I mean, in that Flashpoint universe, like, there was no other Barry.
You're right.
And he basically tortured himself to, like, try to simulate getting his powers back. And it was kind of gruesome in the comics. So he was in bandages and he was bleeding and all this crap. So I don't think they really wanted to portray all that. So they're like, let's just give this universe a Barry that maybe he can siphon his powers, or, somehow, like, recreate the accident or whatever. And I think that's kind of their way of kind of PGing some of the harder core moments in the comic.
Yeah,
that is a hardcore. I haven't read the comic, but that movie, oh gosh, it's great. The animated movie is great. Well, what are your thoughts on it, Cowabunga and Alex, or Cowabunga? Go.
Oh, I'm excited. I mean, I've known about Michael Keaton for quite some time, and especially when they did that one teaser, a year and a half ago, where you sort of see the Corvette under the sheet and stuff. But and honestly, I'm not letting any of the controversy and politics surrounding Ezra Miller ruin this. I mean, whatever is going on with that. But I mean, I'm curious to see how this is going to reboot the DCU, because this is definitely how they're doing it.
Oh yeah.
100%. I just, but to hear James Gunn say that, this is the best superhero film he's ever seen, or in a while, or he gave it a lot of good props. So it's like, it seems to me like he's definitely using this as a way to segue the reboot.
I mean, really, it's only natural, because we know how, if you read the comic in Flashpoint, and even if you've seen the Flashpoint movie, animated movie, like, everything changes, so much changes after this. And this is really the only reasonable, the most reasonable segue to kind of change things up and shift everything. So this is kind of the last movie of the DC EU that we know, starting with Superman, Man of Steel. So I'm thinking that they're going to try to go out with a bang, and which is why I'm not counting this movie out at all. Like I'm wanting to see like what's going to happen, and I'm really excited about Kara being depicted for the first time.
Which comes out first, Flash or Aquaman 2?
Oh, I think Flash, right?
So is Aquaman 2 going to be the last one? I think
it's going to be like the last movie, but I think the timeline is supposed to be like it's supposed to take place like whatever before.
Yeah. Because
Okay.
I mean, he hasn't I don't know if he's come out and officially said it, but everybody knows that he's getting offered Lobo.
See, that's all I was thinking too.
Yeah,
everybody knows it. I mean, he's pretty much all but said that.
Right.
So
I can't picture anybody else playing him right now. Actually, I think the dude's a shoe-in for the role. I think after we get the story told with Aquaman 2, it'll be a nice story, but it's going to be retconned. It's going to be Flashpoint do-over, and he's going to be free to basically own that role.
What are your thoughts on the trailer, Alex?
I had no intention of watching The Flash. I didn't really care about that movie, but every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in. The trailer was dope. That trailer was dope. It was dope. I'm really interested in it now, and that says a lot because I had no interest at all in seeing it, but now I want to see it. At first, it was like I would watch it because it's a superhero movie. I'm obligated. I gotta watch it. You know what I mean? But now I really actually want to see it. I just hope they don't kill off Michael Keaton Batman. I just hope they stick the landing. The trailer is dope. I hope they stick the landing and don't kill off Batman. But we all know how Flashpoint went. Well, at least I know how the animated movie went. So, we're gonna see what happens. We're gonna see what happens.
I think it's interesting they gave Kara dark hair.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I mean, I don't. It didn't bother me. It's just
I think there's a version of her with dark hair, right?
There's actually a Cyril Supergirl. Like she looks like Cyril, which was supposed she was like an alternate version. She came back. She claimed to be Superman's daughter. Like her suit and her hairstyle looks very close to that particular character. It wasn't Kara, but she looks like that variation of a Supergirl that came before. So
taking it back all the way to Man of Steel, if you remember in Man of Steel, when Clark goes to that ship that's buried under the ice, basically where he gets his suit and learns who he is. If you look, there's 2 escape pods. One of them is open, or one of them it was smashed and there was a skull or someone's body in there decayed, but another one was open. So a lot of people were theorizing that one was Kara because she got there before he. She got there late, right?
She got there after he did, yeah.
Yeah.
She's technically older than him, but because
Yeah.
But
so I'm curious. I'm curious because James Gunn, he definitely says he's doing a whole new Superman, a younger Superman. But I know that before we even get Superman, we're getting Supergirl, a Woman of Tomorrow, right? Wasn't that one of the ones? I'm curious, is this the Kara he's rolling with? Is this the Supergirl he's rolling with? Is this?
Because she was supposed to get her own movie. I thought she was supposed to get her own movie.
She is. I just don't know if this is the actress that's getting it or if he's going to recast Supergirl again. So I don't know. I can't tell if this is actually her debut.
I'm curious to know if y'all think he's making good decisions. I don't know, man. He's making he's doing some crazy stuff. Like from just in my opinion,
decisions.
Yeah. Like Henry Cavill was perfect. I understand why he's not going on with the Wonder Woman movie because 84 was terrible. But like Gal Gadot is a great Wonder Woman. I don't know. What do y'all think?
The only thing is, it's like you got to factor in like how these people gather and how they get along behind the scenes. and how they feel about the different ideas and how their characters are going to be portrayed. And you got to deal with chemistry. You got to make sure that these people work together. You got to make sure that, you know, especially when there's all this money involved, and you know, you're talking about changing the guard. You had all these execs at DC that weren't really caring about the franchise. You only had key people within that organization that really cared about, like, okay, we have a chance to put out like some really good product. Like, let's do it. And there were a large number of the execs at DC and Warner Brothers that were just like, well, look, we want this. This is going to make money, blah, blah, blah. We're going to do this. And so there was a lot of internal conflict. There was a lot of, you know, politics that goes along with it. And sometimes it's kind of just best to clean house so that you can have creative freedom to make the product that you want to make. So, you know, because I'm not privy to all of those conversations, I'm just willing to see where it goes. I mean, that's pretty much going to be my stance on, you know, comic book movies as a whole.
Here's my take or impression of what must have gone on in those board meetings back in the day. Like, when it comes from like how Henry Cavill got Man of Steel, and he never got Man of Steel 2 or whatever they were going to do with him. You know, you have these old, because I mean, what happened was, didn't Wonder Woman the first one made a lot of money, right?
Yes, it did.
Okay, so here's my impression. But a bunch of old men sitting at a table, like, Wonder Woman was good. Let's make another one of them. That's how I figured they handled all that. It's just like they're not appealing to the fans. They're just appealing to whatever they want. Right. I mean, Warner Brothers does this a lot. You know, I'm jumping from one franchise to another, but y'all remember that Mortal Kombat movie we got, right? A couple of years ago?
Trying not to.
The only reason, the thing is, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. You know, the only problem was the character, that one character, the made-up character. That was the only way Warner Brothers would let them do that movie, is if they made, if we want y'all to have, this is the main character, this is what he does, and this is what this is how we want to. And so they made up that one character who ended up being like a descendant.
That was really the worst part of the movie. Like,
that's what I'm saying. That's when Warner Brothers gets their fingers in it. It's just like, what are y'all doing?
The web series was better than the movie. Y'all remember that web series that came out with Michael Jai White? Yeah.
Yes. So here's my theory on that. My theory on why they do that is because they can't control the rights to Mortal Kombat characters, but they can control the rights to their made-up character. And so they get so if he hits off and maybe they had a spin-off or action figures and stuff like that, who do you think gets more money? It would be Warner Brothers. I feel like it had a lot. I think it was a lot of politics and like, you know, wheeling and dealing with rights and stuff. But that's just.
And since, you know, things have happened and since things have been shaken up, like within that roster and within that organization, it's like, I'm really wanting to see where he's going to go as far as establishing something new. Because honestly, I don't think he had a choice. I don't think he had a choice, you know, but to kind of wipe the slate clean and get a new roster, get new actors, write a completely different story than what came before, because the execs probably didn't give him any choice. He probably was like, okay, if I'm going to have creative freedom, like, I have to make something new, like something that the fans will appreciate, something that I'll be proud of making. Like, this is what I got to do. And, you know, it sucks because it's like, okay, we got attached to these characters and we got attached to this, you know, this concept of this, especially the Snyderverse, like Justice League. I was really hoping that they capitalize on that. I was really hoping that we would see more of that type of movie, that storyline. But, you know, it fell through. You know, we'll always have that particular film. But at this point in time, it's kind of like Marvel, you know, he's been building groundwork and I want to see what the finished result is. So I'm going to hang with him.
Yeah. And this my opinion. It's not, I don't think he changed the roster because he's afraid that might confuse the audience. Because to me, like the general audience now is a different evolved audience now where they can keep up with stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? It's not an issue. I think he, like you said, he did that because he just had to do it to just, you know, start over creatively. right?
I mean, that's what I think. I mean, I don't know like I said, I'm not privy to those conversations, but from the outside looking in, it looks like this is what he had to do to be able to tell the stories that he wants to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. Alex?
Yeah, I think the DCU, they kind of messed up some storylines by rushing out stuff. You know what I mean? We never got a Ben Affleck Batman solo movie. We never got that. We should have got that before getting the Justice League.
Gosh.
And then they rushed and jumped into Batman versus Superman that gave us the death of Superman and Doomsday, the Doomsday Troll. And it's like, y'all shouldn't have did that. You know what I mean? Y'all rushing it. That could have been Superman 3 could have been the death of Superman. And then you could have went on from there. They could have did so much because, same way with the MCU. I mean, you got like 70 years worth of stories that you can draw from. You know what I mean? You ain't got to do direct adaptions, but you can draw from these different stories and give us 10 years worth of movies, then give us Flashpoint and reboot everything and do it all over again. Instead, we got a jumbled mix of movies, the Justice League and the Batman versus Superman, and now we're doing Flashpoint already, which the characters never really got a chance to breathe. You know what I mean? We never got a Green Lantern. Anyway, the characters never got a chance to really be who they are before it is getting rebooted again. So, I understand, James Gunn feeling the need to wipe the slate clean and start over because a lot of stories kind of got fumbled a little bit, up in there that could be done over again. I mean, we never saw any Robins in the DCU. We just know that a Robin was dead already. I want to see that story.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like, this reminds me of like one of the worst stories I've heard about how Warner Brothers operates. But, I feel really bad for David Ayer for his Suicide Squad. The first one. The movie was what it was, but I'm very curious to see what his version was because here's the story behind that. Y'all remember the first trailer for Suicide Squad when they used the Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that trailer broke records. It was like at the time, it was like one of the highest watched trailers. So what happened was Warner Brothers literally like cut Ayer out of this process and they basically hired the same team that made that trailer to cut and edit the whole film. And Ayer had no part in it. He wasn't allowed to. They basically got a third party to come in and cut that film. That's why the movie doesn't make sense based on the trailers we saw, because there's scenes in the trailers, that we never even saw in the movie. Like a lot of the Joker, that wasn't used. I mean, him with the burnt up face pulling the grenade and all that. None of that was in the film, but it was in that first trailer. And it's because, some crew came in and chopped up his whole film. I mean, I just feel like that was really dirty. And that's, I feel like what James Gunn is doing is to prevent crap like that happening to future colleagues and directors and projects within the DCU. Because, I mean, that right there was just ridiculous. The fact that they wouldn't let the director edit and cut his own vision because of the YouTube viewing numbers on a trailer. You know
I
what I mean?
Know that. That's crazy.
I didn't know that either. That's wild.
It's just.
And even when you were talking about Batman versus Superman earlier, I thought Jason had said this. Shout out to Jason. Jason. He said this, and and Brookston was there because we just walked out of Civil War. He said, why did they make Doomsday the villain when they could have made the guy who was crippled? They could have made him Metallo.
I just knew he was going to be Metallo. You couldn't tell me nothing different.
Right.
And then when it didn't happen, I was like, oh.
That's what exactly. I thought he was going to come out with some like kryptonite in his chest or whatever. That was a complete waste, man. That was that movie. Oh, that movie. Anyway, so
but I like Batman versus Superman. I can understand why people wouldn't like it. I liked it though.
But your dude should have been Batman versus Superman because they were talking about it was too dark and gritty, and I'm like, well, it's not the MCU. I mean, this is literally.
It needs to separate itself from the MCU.
Yeah.
Have his own identity.
Yeah. What are you about to say, B?
I did not like the theatrical version of Batman versus Superman, but the
director's cut makes more sense.
Cut was so much better to me. It it filled so many plot holes. It told a more cohesive story. Like things just made more sense. Like I actually liked that version. I did not like the first version at all.
Wow. You know what? It just occurred to me. I never watched it. Is it on HBO Max?
Yes.
Okay. I have to watch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like even because I mean, yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, the director's version or director's cut is a lot better. It does. It fills in a lot of gaps. One of the major gaps was the woman who testified and lied for payoff money, and it shows one of Lex's henchmen cutting loose ties, and basically he pushes her in front of a subway train. So like,
wow,
like you see how that kind of it was really establishing more of Lex's
how sinister he is.
Yeah, and how strategic he was. Of no, I'm not leaving any loose ends. Ain't nobody gonna trace this back to me. In the other version where that happens, and you never see that character again. You're like, oh, okay, well, all right, But yeah, it made a lot more sense.
I just never liked Jesse Eisenberg as Lex. I thought that was a huge messed up as far as miscasting. I cannot stand him as an actor, being honest, because he did an interview. He did an interview back in the day for Now You See Me, and he was a real jerk to this interviewer. And ever since then, I never really cared for him as an actor. But I still just can't stand him.
The only scene that I think really marks how sinister he was as Lex is when I love the music in that movie. You can tell everybody has themes. So every time they would play Lex, they would always play this long violin chord. Yeah. So like every time it was the scene on the rooftop when him and Superman finally met, and he starts throwing the pictures of his mom as she's being like beaten and gagged and stuff. I'm like, oh wow. Like, and he got him to kneel down. I was like, oh yeah, Jesse, he went hard for that, just a little bit. I was like, wow, that was pretty rough. Fuck you.
I will give that to him. Now I'm with E-Man totally. That was a total miscast as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. But there were certain instances in that movie where he played that part. I don't care what anybody says, like that particular part when he was flicking the pictures in his face and like down at his feet. I was like, that's hard right there. You like flicking pictures like the most powerful being like in the universe, and you just like lording it over him. Like, and that's Lex. Like he did really emulate like just the ruthlessness of Lex Luthor in that particular scene.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like him as Lex, and I don't like in Superman Returns Kevin Spacey as Lex either. I thought he was terrible. That was just a bad movie.
We only need 5.
Why? Oh my gosh! Why did you even say that? I forgot about that movie. It was wiped from my memory.
Miss Kitty. Land.
Oh my gosh! Why?
The best part of that entire movie, the best part of that whole movie was the part where he saves the people from that crashing plane. That's it. After that, it was just.
Oh, you can tell the whole budget went to that scene.
Yeah.
With the plane.
That's all I would watch. I would put that one scene on and eat my food while I'm watching him catch the plane. And then as soon as that moment is over, I turn it off.
Because all his best Superman moments after that were like montages. Him saving the day, him taking the bullet to his eyeball. I mean, it was basically God. That movie was full of nothing but money shots. That's all it was.
Dude, Bryan Singer directed that. Remember that? He directed that. It's so crazy because I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but Brandon Routh played Superman, who actually ended up playing in Scott Pilgrim as Todd Ingram. But originally, the why can't I think of his name right now? From The Mummy, he's in The Whale. Brendan Fraser. He was supposed to be Superman as well, but he didn't. He didn't get it.
He actually, I saw an interview about that where he was talking about, he's like, I went into it kind of half-cocked because I kept thinking to myself, do I want to be remembered as Superman the rest of my life?
Right.
He admits he didn't really give it his all, so he was kind of relieved and stuff. But
and back in the day, I think this is like around the time that Batman Returns came out. They were supposed to make a Superman, and Nicolas Cage was supposed to be
Superman Lives.
Garbage. Oh my gosh.
There's a documentary on that.
Know about that.
There's a documentary on that.
Oh,
They released it a few
traumatizing.
years ago where it shows Nicolas Cage with long hair and they had this weird
horrible
shiny
light
suit.
up
The suit was really shiny.
Yeah, it was like a clear,
lit up. It
transparent.
had like these strobing LEDs or neon. It was weird.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
It was horrible. It was bad. E-Man, I'm mad at you for even bringing that up.
I can't help it.
You know, it's so funny. I saw an interview with Kevin Smith because Kevin Smith was supposed to direct Superman at one point. And there were 3 guidelines that he had to go off of. A, they didn't want to see him in the suit. B, no flying. And then C, in the 3rd act, he had to fight a giant mechanical spider. Okay, so he ended up not getting it, and it was one of those things like the executive was like, "Did you talk to President Bush?" He's like, "Yeah." Did he bring up the spider? He's like, "Yeah, he did bring up the spider." He's like, "Always damn spider." So Kevin Smith talks about years later he went and saw a little movie called Wild Wild West, which was complete and total garbage. And he noticed that the producer of that film was that same guy. And in the 3rd act of that film, what do they do? They fight a giant mechanical spider. And it's like, you can't make that shit up. It's great.
Dude. The thing that I just was there to think about, whole thing about Wild Wild West is like, originally the actor that played James West was Caucasian. He's like he did not want Will Smith in that role. Do y'all know that? He's like, I don't want a black guy playing that. I don't care who it is. Yeah, he was really against that. And I forgot I forgot the name of the original actor, but yeah. And that movie wasn't that bad. It wasn't that great.
You know, honestly, but what was crazy is Will Smith turned down The Matrix to do that film.
The Matrix is like my favorite movie of all time.
Wow.
And Will Smith is one of my favorite actors of all time.
That 4th Matrix was garbage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And it was so bad.
Absolutely.
I didn't even need to see it. I knew it was going to be bad.
No, you traumatized me now. That movie was so bad. Well, my thing was like, it's either going to be real good or it's going to be real bad. And it was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it's sad when, to me, like one of the newest characters is like one of the best parts of the movie. Like, what's her name? She played Bunny. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. She was the main chick in the beginning, right? The one that found Neo and more. Yeah. I like her. I
know her name. I know her name, but she was my favorite part of the whole movie. Like, seriously, like when it started, I was hyped because I saw her and I saw what she was doing and everything. And just as the movie progressed, I was like, oh my gosh, how are you going to get so many of the original cast members and it still be this bad?
Man, you know what's really crazy, because Yahya is in that film too, right? He plays Morpheus.
Yeah, right.
Now recently he got cast as Wonder Man in the MCU.
Yeah.
Honestly, I thought that was a waste because I would have loved to have seen him play a variant of T'Challa. A war-torn variant of Can you imagine how dope that would be?
That would have been dope.
Yeah,
I think that would have been dope.
But if you're talking about variants, and this is why I love the multiverse so much, is because there's so many talented actors, even no names out there that can play versions of these characters and kill it. And that's really what I'm kind of expecting. I'm wanting to see some no-name character that kind of fits the profile of, the character that they're playing and really bring the character to life. I don't know if it's going to happen, but that's really what I want to see.
Yes. Yeah, man. Oh, this has been good, man. Real quick, how can they reach you guys? I'm going to hear what Alex got to say. Alex, how can they reach you, Alex? You said something really slick last time. That was really good. How can they reach you? Man of mystery.
I don't know what I said.
You said
I'm always around.
That's what you said last time.
No, I remember what he said. He said, I'm here when you need me.
That's right. Yeah,
I'll be there when you need me.
Stuff.
What about you, B?
I'm nobody important. If you want to get a hold of me, get a hold of E-Man.
There you go. And Cowabunga Mike, aka Shane, how can they reach you?
Man, I'm nobody important too, but if you want to reach me, I'm on Facebook as Shane Dempsey, and I'm on Instagram as the same thing.
Well, man, this has been a lot of fun. I can't wait for us to do this more often with the roundtable discussions I have this spring. So planned this spring. So stay tuned for that, guys. And thanks for talking about Ant-Man 3, DC, and all this other good stuff. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for your time.
Hey,
Right
thanks
on,
for
bro.
having us.